All right, welcome to another episode of the Backdoor Cut show on Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. We are on satellite radio, so check us out. It is just Sam today. You can find me at the Barn Chief. I'm doing a solo pod. Let me tell you, I'm not cut out for solo radio. I don't think this is a tough maneuver. I mean, you have to talk and fill the space just yourself. You have to sound interesting, and you can't bounce off with someone else. Luckily, I don't have to do solo radio too long. My boy Subi is going to join us later. One half of the TICH. The TITCH show on the Barn Burner Podcast Network. But check us out. We're at the Barn Burner. Check out the articles at the-barnburner.com. We're joining you tonight to talk a lot of things that happened in the NBA this week. We saw a lot of different things, both politically, and we saw the NBA playoffs resume, which is exciting. I've also sent out a link to the show on Twitter. If you want to join the show, you can click the link and you can call in and join, and we can talk about whatever. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So check it out and click if you want to join the show. You can find me again at the Barn Chief on Twitter. But it's good to be here. It's a beautiful Sunday evening in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm excited to talk about a few developments here in Grizzlies basketball. But first, a somber moment. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention the kind of three deaths that happened this week. We saw Chadwick Boseman, Lute Olson, and Cliff Robinson, all three pass away. Chadwick Boseman, of course, the actor most famous for his portrayal of Black Panther. And then he was in the Jackie Robinson movie 42, great young actor, died of colon cancer. Cliff Robinson, the NBA player, most famously for his tenure with the Trailblazers. And then most likely one of the more beloved vets in the league, at least based on the reaction from everyone after his passing. And then Lute Olson, the timeless Arizona coach who brought a national championship to Bearcat Nation in 1997. Subi later is an Arizona fan. We'll get his thoughts on Lute Olson, but really sad times and just really sad to see those guys go. I think everyone, has been like 2020 sucks. 2020 is the worst year ever. Like my take on 2020 is it does suck. I mean, obviously the pandemic, I think, has exacerbated everything, but people pass every year. I mean, we see this every year. Celebrities pass, musicians pass, and athletes pass. Just famous people pass away every year. And I think this year is a little bit worse because COVID's forcing us all in our homes. We're all going fucking insane. And so it makes us have to confront these things. It makes us have to deal with them in real time. We can't go to the bar or we can't go somewhere else to forget about the fact that that's happening. We can't escape reality. We have to address the fact that those people are dying. That, with the election year this year too, a lot going on. So everyone with your 2020 tweets, I hear you. 2020 sucks, but let's just make the best of the second half of the year. Power positive thinking, as Subi would say. He'll be on the show later again. So with that being said, let's jump right into some basketball. We are, of course, the Grizzlies podcast on the Barn Burner Podcast Network. You can also hear us on Nothing But Net on Dash Radio. So we talk mostly Memphis sports and predominantly Memphis Grizzlies, but we also like to do a little bit of the NBA on everything. So let's start out with a tweet that kind of went around the interwebs, and it was by Beale Street Bears, who's the fan-sided Grizzlies website blog, and they sent out a tweet. They included a Twitter poll that just enraged everyone in Memphis. I feel like everyone was just like Arthur fisting. They were angrily grabbing plates and smashing them in their kitchen. And it was with respect to trading our own JAREN Jackson Jr., of course, the rookie out of Michigan State. And their tweet said, would you, if we were to trade JAREN, if the Grizzlies were to trade JAREN, what would you want in return? The three options were a first-round pick, and another option was another young player. But it just freaked everyone out because everyone said that's the dumbest tweet ever. A lot of people were saying instant unfollow, and we saw just nothing gets Memphis fans riled up when they can collectively go after someone on Twitter. I feel like that's when everyone just goes ham and really just goes ham on an individual. So we saw that happen, and really, so here's the thing: JAREN Jackson Jr., sophomore. He has been hurt, in a lot of his career. I mean, we saw him get hurt this year, torn meniscus. Last year, he had a deep thigh bruise. He hasn't played a whole season yet. You kind of worry about that. He's long. A lot of people compare him to the unicorn, Kristaps Porzingis, and I mean that guy's injured all the time too. And so I think a lot of people are a little worried about, including myself, a little bit worried about our boy JAREN staying on the court, and rightly so. I mean, he hasn't been able to do it for a whole season, and it's hard to stay on the court for an entire NBA season. You're talking about 82 games, a lot of wear and tear on the body. That's we all know that. But JAREN, he shoots 39% from three on like 6 attempts per game. He can get to the basket at will this year, it seemed like. Not great rebounder, but we know that. He was our second leading scorer. He was second on the team in player efficiency rating. By all accounts, he is going to be the number 2 to Ja's number 1. And what's more important is JAREN doesn't seem to give a fuck about being the number 2. That's like the best thing you can imagine, is that you have a guy that's that good that doesn't want the team to be his own, that he's okay with being the number 2, the 1B to Ja Morant's 1A, just based on their personalities. And he seems perfectly happy to do so. So it seems like they have a lot of good synergy. So when you get a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. in the draft, granted, we kind of wish we'd been able to get Luka, but we got Jaren at 4, and that was great. A lot of people, including myself, weren't happy about the pick, but he's really turned out. And he's turned out to be a way better scorer than we thought he would be. When you get a guy like that on a team like the Grizzlies, who's not getting any free agents, and you have 2 young guys like Ja and Jaren that work very well together, their games complement each other. Ja attacking the rim, a great passer, can kick out to Jaren, who's the great shooter. They play 2 very complementary positions. I see a lot of pick and roll in their future, a lot of pick and pop. Very exciting shit. We all know that. But here's the thing. We still don't want nice things. Memphis fans, find a way, no matter what, find a way to try to figure out a ridiculous trade to trade away the things that we have. I know that the tweet was out there. Look, we're in content, probably to a lesser degree than the fan-sided people. I get it. You send a tweet out. You hope that people click on it. You hope that it gets retweeted. And the more ridiculous the tweet or the more controversial the tweet, the better, because then people get involved and you got a bunch of interaction. I get that. We're in the content business over here at the Barn Burner. I don't know if you know about it, the-barnburner.com. But it is an issue, I think, where you send a controversial tweet and you get interaction. People get mad, and in that way they were successful. But here's my thing: I'm not trading Jaren Jackson Jr. for anyone in the league that isn't named Luka, Giannis, Donovan Spider Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and then maybe Devin Booker if I'm feeling frisky. If I've had, a few IPAs, which cheers to Crosstown Brewery, their traffic's delicious. If I've had a few IPAs, 3 or 4 IPAs, and maybe I'm willing to get a little frisky with Devin Booker, have a discussion about it. But really, I want to run this back and see where we are with John Jaren. I don't want to trade away Jaren because he's just been a little injured. We've seen him play most of the season, and he's missed 30 games or so in each season. So I'm not worried yet. If it's consistently continues, then I'll be a little more worried. But let's not get rid of our nice things, guys. Let's appreciate and love them for what we've got. So that was just a thing floating around in Grizz Nation this week, which was very funny and a classic situation of Grizz Twitter. But before we get into more NBA stuff, I definitely want to talk about what happened Wednesday. A historic event in the NBA, a historic night in sports in general. And it was the kind of culmination of the current politics and social injustice merging with the way the NBA does their business here on this big stage in the restart. And we saw the Milwaukee Bucks set to take the court against the Orlando Magic in their last game. Milwaukee Bucks, at the last minute, it seems, planned or decided ultimately to boycott the game, not play, which of course set off this huge whirlwind of all the teams not playing that particular day. And the Lakers were set to play that night. So no one ended up playing. They're boycotting, particularly related to the Jacob Pierce shooting. He's actually still alive, clinging to life up in Milwaukee. Of course, Milwaukee, close to home. A lot of these incidents have happened up there. So the Bucks just had a moment where they decided they didn't want to play basketball and that it wouldn't be the right thing to do. The whole point of why they came to the bubble was to shed light on all these things, shed light on all these different issues. And so they didn't want to get out and play on the basketball court and play a playoff game and when all this was going on. And I commend them for it. That's a tough decision to make. Some of the guys in the league seem to be mad that they just decided on a whim. But ultimately, that these sorts of decisions are made like that. They're emotional decisions. And if they didn't want to play basketball, I can't blame them. And I can't imagine what's been going through all their heads. It's a situation where they just didn't think it was the right time, and rightfully so. And I commend them also for shortly after, they got on the phone to the governor there in Milwaukee. They talked to the district attorney. They made a point to actually get on the phone with the decision makers down there and try to affect some change. And a lot of people, look, they didn't have to explain to anybody what the action steps were and the goal of this boycott. A boycott doesn't have to have tangible goals. It's more effective when it does, but the whole point was to get everyone thinking about it. The whole point was to raise awareness, get the attention on the issues again. I think we all kind of slid back into playoff basketball and hadn't really talked about this sort of stuff in a long time. So in that sense, it worked. And look, they're human beings. They're affected just like anybody else. they're in the bubble. They're not around their friends and family. I think that, sort of the mental health issues are wearing in. We saw Paul George talk about how it's affecting him and his on court performance. And I think finally they just decided that they just had enough. And so they wanted to remind everyone of why they're there. And so kudos to them. It's a historic moment. Been a lot of good stuff written about it. A lot of people have talked way better about it than me than I am right now. But I wanted to shout them out and give kudos to them for using their voices and their platform. And again, like now the NBA is back. Some people are out there saying that they wished they had continued to protest, that if they had continued to protest, then it would have meant more. That if they had just decided to kill the season entirely, then it would have meant more, and that this partial protest or this like temporary protest actually discredited their opinion. And I just don't believe that for a second. I mean, would it have been more intense if they had just canceled the season? Sure. I mean, you could argue it would have made a more intense point. It would have dotted the I sharply. But I think, once the monetary issues came into play, we saw Michelle Roberts, the head of the Players Association, come in and explain to the players what happens to the collective bargaining agreement if they just don't play at all. A lot of these guys aren't set for life. A lot of these guys haven't made that second big time contract. So they're guys that are just playing on those rookie deals, or maybe they're 10-day guys. They don't have that nest egg of wealth built. They're just trying to provide for them and their families. I get it. They don't want to throw that all away. So there's some monetary considerations. They're human beings as well, but want to commend them for the Boycott historic moment. And it was cool to watch that happen in real time. Of course, via Shams and Woj, as if they were there in the room, even though they're allegedly not down there. But shout out to the guys. It's one of the most progressive leagues in the country and one of the most exciting leagues to watch as well, with all the personnel. So shout out to those guys. So moving past, I also saw another tweet online, another Grizzlies tweet. And man, I tell you what, like this week, I think here's what happens. The Grizzlies are out of the playoffs, right? So we didn't get the 8 seed. Now everyone's trying to figure out what they can do to improve our roster. It's what every NBA fan base does. It's what every closet GM or Twitter GM does, is try to concoct NBA trades. They try to figure out ways to get good guys on our roster and then get rid of the bad guys, and somehow do all of that while retaining all of our good guys, and then also accumulating a bunch of first-round picks, which I know what you're thinking. That sounds impossible, and by God, it is. But Grizzlies fans are going to try to figure out a way to do that. One of the proposed trades I saw recently was to take on the contract of one Tobias Harris from the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the 76ers, tough beat for them. I mean, they had an injury to Ben Simmons, their first or second best player, depending on how you see about it. They fired Brett Brown, their coach. Just an abysmal playoff performance by them. Got swept by the Celtics. They really don't have any direction. They've got Al Horford on a crazy deal. They got Tobias Harris on a crazy deal. And none of those guys really fit with their roster as they play. So they are in a bad spot. And they're going to be looking to unload a lot of those guys, I think. If they can get rid of Al Horford or Tobias Harris, they're going to do it so they can open up space to bring in someone around Embiid and Simmons, which they've stated they still want to try to win with. So they're kind of willing up to probably shed out some things to get rid of those contracts. So a few people proposed, and I don't know why they want to put this evil on us, Rookie Bobby. They want to trade Gorgie Dang, like Grayson Allen. So basically some contracts that would equate Tobias Harris's asinine contract, which I think he's due like 40-something million in 2 or 3 years, which is just fucking preposterous. I love Tobias Harris. I mean, but not that much. And I don't think anyone thinks that's a reasonable deal. It's now become like the albatross of the NBA. It is now the contract that everyone points to and does the Nelson from Simpsons, because it is. It's terrible, and you don't want it on your team. But a lot of people propose, like, look, Grizzlies take on that contract. They get maybe a second-round pick and then trade off some guys that we don't really play that much to equate to salaries. And then we got Tobias Harris, who's never been an all-star, but is a borderline all-star, a 19-7 guy, typically shoots good from three, had a terrible showing in the playoffs this year. But is a guy that theoretically would fit in with John Jaren. And then everyone's like, oh, don't worry, Grizzlies fans. The second that you need to extend John Jaren from their rookie deals, Tobias Harris contract rolls off your books. So no harm, no foul. You got Tobias Harris, great deal for you, right? And to that, I say a resounding hell no, man. Like, I do not want Tobias Harris on this team. I do not think he would be a positive guide for these guys. I don't think he wants to be traded to the Grizzlies. I don't think really anybody does. But I really don't think he would be a positive influence. I think he would begrudgingly be here for the rest of his deal. And I just don't think it would be good for John Jaren. Also, I think we can do a lot more with that money. I don't think we need to fill it up with Tobias Harris's contract just because we could afford him, and a lot of teams can't. Doesn't mean we need to do it. If I were to do some crazy asinine shit like that, then I would definitely require like 2 or 3 first round picks from the Sixers. Like, there's no way I'm taking on Toby's contract unless I'm getting an insane amount of draft capital back. And I'm talking like they better make it rain on us for sure with draft picks if that were a possibility. Like, I wish they were like literal tangible pieces of paper, you could legitimately like make it rain draft picks. If that were the case, then the Thunder would be doing really well right now. Probably James Harden would probably want to be hanging out with them again. But anyway, that's another ridiculous NBA trade proposed that supposedly is supposed to benefit the Grizzlies. Another thing I want to talk about that's been kind of bothering me as I text Sub and let him know to join the show. Drop coverage. It's an NBA defense, okay? And what it is you know it. You've watched a lot of NBA basketball if you're listening to this show. It is a situation where the big man, the 5-man, drops back into the paint and essentially protects the rim and does not move out to help on screen and rolls or hedge or really guard anyone on the perimeter at all. He just lingers back and makes sure no one gets to the rim. The notion there is that you are giving up the soft space between the rim and the 3-point line, and you're allowing guys to take 17-footers, and that's what you want guys to take, right? Like, we're on a money ball right now. We want guys to take 17, 18-footers. It's the least efficient shot in basketball, blah, blah, blah. We've heard that a million fucking times. The problem with drop coverage is we've seen all these guys, we've seen all these players. What's up, Sue?
How you doing, Sam?
I'm talking about drop coverage right now. The NBA defense is really pissing me off. So you have this big man playing in the paint. He's preventing guys from getting to the rim. Yeah, theoretically, your perimeter players are out there guarding and preventing threes. But what's happening is, and it's happening time and time again, and no coach seems to be able to figure it out, is that guys are coming right around a screen and walking right into a three. Like guys like Kemba Walker, guys like Donovan Mitchell, all the great guards we have in our league that are incredible 3-point shooters. And everyone's just getting toasted from 3, and all the coaches are throwing their hands up and saying, well, I thought we were going to force them into law and twos, and just pisses me off. But this has just been my rant about drop coverage. Welcome to the show, Sub. This is Subi from Theater and College Hoops. He agreed to jump on, so I didn't have to solo talk for like 50 minutes to talk about the NBA playoffs. Sub, how are you, man? Doing well?
I'm doing well, yeah. Nice little lazy Sunday here, catching the Nuggets Jazz game, which has actually turned into quite a competitive ball game. You know, I don't really understand the Denver Nuggets. We can get into them a little bit, but that's just throughout these games, I've just been perplexed by them, but doing very well. Thank you for having me on. It's quite a distinct honor. I will try and live up to the standard, that Rich, Chief, yourself, Zach and Mason have set.
Well, I appreciate that. And likewise too. We love what you guys do over there at TICH, and you're one of the most entertaining college basketball shows in podcastdom. So we hope that more people would tune in and check you guys out. But again, both shows are on Dash Radio. We're on the Nothing But Net channel at different times. You can check both of our shows out, and we are at the Barn Burner. You might say the Denver game is a barn burner. By the way, you missed an opportunity there for branding. We're just trying to get better around here.
I was thinking about doing it. I was thinking about laying that down, but I didn't know if that was too corny. So you know what? I'm glad you picked up the slack there.
You steer into it. Yeah, we just steer into it around here. Let's start with the series you're particularly interested in. You are originally from the Northeast. You're from the Boston area. You are a Celtics fan and have been for a long time. Your Celtics take on the Toronto Raptors in the second round of the East semis. So we had game 1 today, and boy, was not a fun game to watch for a casual NBA fan like myself that just wanted to see a good game. But I feel like it was fun for you. Tell me a little bit about what you thought of that matchup from the get-go.
Oh, it was great. I mean, today was a fantastic win for the Celtics. I was just waiting for a letdown. Shark will tell you, who's one of my co-hosts on Theater and College Hoops. He gets on me because I sometimes call out the Celtics for giving up monumental, gargantuan runs, like not just your 8-0 runs. I'm talking like 14, 16-0 runs. And so I was waiting for that to happen with the Celtics. Luckily, it never did. They were on the Raptors' neck the entire game, and it was a wire-to-wire finish. I was very pleased with it, but it's just one game, and I think this team has realized that. So after they swept the Sixers, Brad Stevens basically said, well, we can still improve with defense, and it's just one series. If we harken back to last year, they dominated the Bucks, the perennial favorite out of the East. They dominated the Bucks in game 1 on the road. Now, here in a neutral environment, they dominated the Raptors, defending champions. We remember what happened in that Bucks series. They died, essentially. The Bucks completely eviscerated them. So I don't necessarily think that Toronto's going to reel off 4 straight wins, but this is going to be a huge challenge. They have a championship pedigree, of course. I don't expect Pascal Siakam to play as poorly as he did today. I expect Fred VanVleet to be better as well. But I'll tell you what, man, the two Jays have been incredibly impressive and just very steady.
Is that what you guys call them, the two Jays, or is that just a Subi special?
I think some corners of Celtics Twitter call them the two Jays. Okay. I don't think it's a nationwide type of nickname for this duo, but I mean, I'll coin it then. I mean, if you want to give me credit for it, I'll take it.
I like it. And you can only hear those kind of things from the fans that are like following all those types of people that are in the deep corners of Twitter, that are on Reddit. Those are the kind of things you see. Dude, to have those two wings, you guys, I mean, we talk about it all the time in our Memphis Grizzlies Twitter threads. Is like, man, to have the Celtics wings, like those guys are great kids. I mean, they fit the culture. They're incredible players as well. I mean, and you just look at it like they're 22 and 23 years old. I mean, the sky's the limit at that point. When you've got two great defending, versatile, switchable wings, you could just kind of build around them and just like plug and play, insert Tice, insert big man, insert point guard, whichever point guard wants to come play with those guys. And Kemba seems to be a better fit than Kyrie, which kind of went without saying, I think. So Celtics, though, not a big rotation. You guys play like 6, 7, 8 guys tops. Big Bob Williams minutes from you today. I mean, is that a concern? Like, do you think game 3, game 4, these guys get tired? They are young, so you have that going for you. But Kemba has some knee issues that maybe seem to flare up today.
Yeah, that actually did concern me. And so I think we're going to need some serious minutes from Brad Wanamaker. He's going to be a linchpin in that second unit. You mentioned Robert Williams, the Time Lord. That's a more well-known nickname, by the way. Time Lord Williams.
I didn't know about that until today. Because he just missed every practice. It's like,
I mean, his rookie year, man, it was a bit concerning because you put all this investment into your big time draft pick, and he's just missing meetings. He's missing the team playing. He's since clearly matured, and I think Danny Ainge handled it pretty well. I think he was the one that dubbed him Time Lord. He could have, I mean, behind closed doors, he was probably like, Bob, man, come on. Like, yeah. Come on, you got to be better than this. But publicly, he didn't chide him or call him out too bad. But I mean, it's interesting because the bigs that they have. You think about Daniel Tice, and then Cantor didn't get any run. So it's all about matchups. Cantor was critical in the Sixers series. I don't think he saw much of the court at all today. So I trust Brad in that respect. I also think it's going to be interesting though. If you go a little deeper, Romeo Langford and Semi Ojeleye, those guys will sometimes get run, but then sometimes they'll just only come in for garbage minutes. So to your point about depth, if and when those guys get on the floor, they need to have a positive impact. I'm not looking for scoring. I just need Semi to potentially like thwart Pascal. I need Romeo to just be active on the offensive end. So I to your point about depth, it is a little concerning, especially because, like I said, the Raptors are a championship level team. Clearly, they're the defending champs, and Nick Nurse has won Coach of the Year. They've been down. They faced adversity. You can't underestimate that at all. And I think the Raptors should be getting, and it should be a healthy fear that the Celtics should be operating with.
Yeah, I will say that. Kind of have a bone to pick with you guys because the bubble games, the Grizzlies that limped into the latter stage of the bubble games, the Celtics and the Bucks had sealed their playoff positioning. The Grizzlies, notably lost 2 or 3 of their top 7 guys, even though no one likes to talk about that. And we're just trying to get an 8 seed. We're just trying to limp into an 8 seed, get some run, and then kind of develop jaw further on the big stage. And it didn't go the way that any of us wanted to, but there we found ourselves. So we thought, oh, well, the Celtics and the Bucks, those are games where we'll probably see the guys sit a lot of their guys. We'll see Wanamaker for like 36 minutes. And, I'm not saying that we'd win, but it would be a lot more likely if we weren't playing, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And not only did Brad Stevens not rest his guys, but he played it as if it were game 7 of the finals. Notably, he brought Tatum back in with 3 minutes left of the game in a blowout. He brought Tatum back in. And at that point, I was like, fuck the Celtics. I'm out on you guys this year. I'm sorry, but like you did nothing to help us out. And then counteract that with the Bucks, who the next game just handed us a nice, a lot of Frank Mason minutes. And it was fantastic. But I was a little heated at Brad there. I was like, this seems kind of unnecessary, man. Like I don't, like Tatum almost got hurt. He came down on I think Kyle Anderson's shoe and almost rolled his ankle. Like, I mean, you guys this has happened to you before. Tony Allen got hurt on like before the playoffs and on a dead ball situation. I just thought, I needed you to put a call in to Brad or have the Shark put one in and just let him know that, I'm not happy.
Sharks definitely your best bet. He's got Celtics ties.
Yeah.
I'll apologize for that. Because I do like the Grizzlies. I like you guys. They're a fun team. But let me ask you this. Was it even wasn't the game just inconsequential? Weren't you locked into that play-in game regardless?
So if we had won that game, we would have been the 8th seed. And Portland would have had to beat us twice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a hugely consequential game.
Yes. Okay.
And at that point, we didn't know what was going to happen with Portland. Like Portland could have lost their last 2 games, and then we would have, so it would have pretty much locked us into the 8th seed. So it was consequential, but we took it in stride. We got a little mad in the group text, and we love your guys. We love the guys, but Brad, come on, man, like throw us a bone.
I was listening to, I forget, it was the last episode of Backdoor Cut, or maybe 2 episodes ago, and Mason was just not thrilled. He was like, yo, fuck the Celtics, fuck Brad Stevens, and fuck Jason Tatum. And I think the player that he landed on was Jonas Valanciunas, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right.
I was ready to text you guys and be like, look, I know he probably shouldn't be in this game in a blowout, but come get your boy. Come, I can't risk this. But yeah, I mean, in addition to that, I can see why you would be upset with the Celtics because of the draft pick as well. So you're now free of that. That's over. Season's over. But I appreciate your grace and you even having me on despite all of this. But yeah, I will try and put in a good word, and hopefully bad karma doesn't come to bite us.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on you, but I will say that, that was a kind of a tough hang from what I thought was a respectable organization. But you wanted that draft pick, you wanted the pick to be as good as possible, and I get that too. So like there was some sort of pecuniary interest there, but really, what's the difference in fucking Precious Achua or like Robert Nesmith or Aaron Nesmith from Vanderbilt or whoever's going to be in the middle of this first round? We'll see. But anyway, moving past that, so the rest of the East, how do you feel about the Bucks and the Heat series coming up? We saw the Bucks pretty much demolish the Magic after that first game stinker, which has happened in all over the place in years of NBA playoffs, and everyone overreacts and acts like the sky is falling, I guess, for good radio and television. But whatever. Like I never buy into that first game. And then we saw the Heat sweep the Pacers, of course, with kind of a hobbled Depot. They had certain other players were injured too, so they didn't have necessarily their full squad. But I'm a big Heat guy. I love Jimmy Butler. I've loved Jimmy Butler since Chicago. So I'm rooting for them personally. What do you feel about that series?
Yeah. So to your point about the overreaction after game 1, we saw it also with the Blazers-Lakers series, and I'm 100% aligned with you. There's no point in getting all worked up. And if I go a little bit further before I get to my thoughts on Bucks Heat, I'm completely out on conference alignment as it pertains to the playoffs 1 through 8. Give me the 16 best teams, man, because after those game 1s, it felt like the Blazers and Magic lost those games by 1 billion points each. Like it wasn't even competitive. There were some moments even in that closeout game against the Magic. Magic made a run, but I don't need to see a 33-40 team get absolutely blasted by the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, I'm assuming Giannis is going to win MVP, but now as it pertains to the Heat Bucks series, I actually don't understand why everyone is going with the Heat here. They're a really good team. They're hot right now. They just swept the Pacers, like you had mentioned. But I think the Bucks really flipped a switch, and their defense is incredible. I think they have the best defense in the league. They have the best defender in the league, and then I just think that their supporting cast is really coming around. Now, again, Heat are much better than the Magic, but the crucial player, and it was the same as last year, and it's probably going to be the same moving forward for the Bucks, is Chris Middleton. He needs to play like an all-star. You know what you're going to get from Giannis. You know what you're going to get from like Brook Lopez. They're pretty consistent. Chris Middleton is supposed to be a like 20-7 kind of guy, and he's kind of fallen short a little bit. He's a little inconsistent. So that scares me a bit. I definitely don't think that they're going to win this series in 5, but I think we're not giving the Bucks enough respect, especially how they kind of flamed out last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. And so I think we need to put a little bit more respect on the Bucks' names, and I think they'll actually win this series in 6.
Yeah, I mean the Bucks they go as Chris Middleton goes, like you mentioned. Eric Bledsoe too is kind of a weird X factor for them, like whether he's going to hit a shot or turn the ball over 7 times. Like he could really do either. He's one of those wishy-washy type players. But Middleton, man, like he would. I'm glad I'm not a Bucks fan because he would frustrate the hell out of me. And the Bucks too are one of those teams that play like dedicated drop coverage. It's like Bud's thing. He like invented it. And so Taylor Jenkins, who's Bucks protege, who's our coach, plays it too. He doesn't have quite the personnel to do it. But the theory is you like implement all that shit, and then theoretically you get the team personnel to do it later. And it'll tell you like sometimes Bud can play it to a fault, and that's when you get confused Bud face like on Twitter where he's like getting beat and he can't figure out why, and like suddenly a million people post his face. Also, shout out to Bud's skinny jeans. He's out there looking like an H&M model, but like muffin top. So it's like some guys just aren't ready for it, man. Like,
I saw a tweet. It was after Giannis headbutted who did he headbutt? Oh, Mo Wagner. And Bud's coming out.
Yeah, I know. The Wizards were even in the bubble. Oh my god,
insane. Everyone's always saying like, why even invite the Suns if they go 8-0? Like I get that. I still think that's like they should have been invited. You know, they just needed a couple other things to break. Focus your attention on the Wizards. Why the hell were they invited?
Right.
I guess
one East team, so that way it wasn't obvious they were trying to get Zion in. Like,
was Beal even playing?
No.
Good
no, he's cut out, and so was their the 3-point specialist. What's his name? The
Bertans.
Yeah, Bertans. Yeah, he didn't play because he's trying to get that contract. But anyway, yeah. So Bud's skinny jeans.
But yeah, so I saw on Twitter it was either the video or a screenshot of Giannis headbutting him, and everyone's focused on the headbutt, but someone goes, "You guys are focused on the wrong thing," and because it was Bud coming out on the court with those skinny jeans, man, and it's just he looks so ridiculous. I'm like, look, I appreciate that the coaches are now taking advantage of not wearing a suit and tie. I don't think you need to in this bubble, but give me some slacks and a collar. It looks a little too casual. And if you can pull it off, you can pull it off, but cannot.
He cannot. Yeah. He needs someone in his life. Like that's when you have someone in your life send you a text that lets you down easy though. That says like, hey man, like love the idea. Then, but maybe just, here's what it looks like, like on the TV. And maybe he's just flaunting it. Like Quinn Snyder's the guy that pulls it off. He can kind of go the short pants and like show a little bit of the ankle with the low cut socks. I'm here for that. He's got the edge to him. Nick Nurse needs to shave the goatee. I appreciate his dedication to it, but I feel like he needs to go full beard or like maybe a 5 o'clock shadow. The goatee's like, maybe you're a big fan of the goatee, but I think it's kind of a tough look for any guy in 2020.
I feel like I've gotten so used to it now, though, that if it's gone, I'll be like, I'll actually. Bud has some faces. Nick Nurse also has some faces as well. Yeah. Like his eyes just get super bug-eyed. And to sort of shoehorn college basketball into this, you mentioned Quinn Snyder, very sharp dresser. He is the NBA version of not John Calipari, Jay Wright. Both very, very sharp dressers. But if we get back to great hair, yeah. It's like Quinn Snyder has that hair that's messy, but it's like a calculated messy.
Yeah. One strand, like it casually dangles down on his forehead.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, this guy's been coaching in an NBA game. He's stressed. Just make sure everyone knows that. Yeah, exactly. But this Bucks Heat series is going to be a good one. I do think the Bucks are going to win. Let me ask you this though: the Bam Adebayo Giannis matchup, I'm assuming maybe Jimmy Butler is going to stick Giannis, but down low, how are you seeing how Bam plays in this series, because he's been fantastic.
Yeah, Bam's like kind of a lot of who I think that I personally hope that Jaren turns out to be, with a little bit better of a scorer. But in terms of just kind of like his basketball IQ and awareness, and Jaren's not as good a passer as Bam is. Bam's really, he's like superpowered Draymond. He's like more athletic, but like you give him the ball in the high post, like on a roll, and he's either going to the basket and scoring, or he's passing to one of the corners to the guy that's like open directly in the breadbasket. And I think that if there is anyone that's going to stick Giannis, which is an impossible job, what you have to do is make Giannis like play a style of basketball he doesn't like to play. You can't let him get downhill, which is again like impossible to do. You probably want Giannis to post you up, and you want to post up Giannis. I think you want to like take him out of the perimeter where he's really good laterally, and probably try to make him play like a back to the basket type defense. If I'm the Heat, I'm probably trying to slow that series down, not be running and gunning. Because once they get Giannis, collapsing the paint, and then he kicks out to one of their shooters in the Bucks, and then they're just like, it's like an endless cycle. And then you look up and you're down, 20. But I will be curious to know if Bam can actually stop Giannis. The answer is probably no. But I think Jimmy stops Middleton. I think Jimmy's really going to frustrate Middleton. That's like one of his things. He's kind of a grade A pass, both in terms of him being a talker and his defensive style as well. And I'm like, I'm the biggest Jimmy Butler fan. I love him for the league. I love like his persona, like his personality. I love the fact that he tries to get guys in the other team to high five him at the free throw line just to fuck with them. But yet he's like also a serious competitor. He's like, he walks that line of like, I'm here to play and win. And when it's like 2 minutes, you want no one else but have the ball but Jimmy Butler. He could be 0 for 10 from 3, and then he hits the biggest shot at the end of the game. So I don't know. I'm excited to see that series, but it could be kind of a rude awakening. Like, oh yeah, the Bucks are just really fucking good, and this, and so we're looking up, and suddenly the Heat are getting their asses kicked. Excited to see the series though. I mean, I think the East in this round is fantastic. First round, we had the Magic and the Nets, who were pretty frisky. The Nets were pretty frisky this bubble, I thought, missing of course Kevin Durant and Kyrie. But I mean, I don't know. I still think probably you're right, Bucks in 6, but I'm excited to watch that series, and I think we'll learn a lot from those first games. Do you think that the bubble, like the no home court, has had any effect at all, like on the actual outcome here? Or do you think like the same teams would have won in the same amount of games regardless?
So I think those, I don't know if those are necessarily exclusive, right? Or inclusive, I should say. I think they win in this, the same teams win in the same amount of games, maybe just some of the different wins, right? So if we think about it, some of the wins might have come in different games. So I don't think the Blazers win game 1 in LA. They probably win game 3 back in Portland, but sure, gentleman's sweep is probably what was going to happen regardless. Clippers Mavericks, I think, is in 6 was a correct call. That would have happened. But I think the impact, or the where the bubble is different from home and away, is the officiating. I really don't think these officials now are being impacted or influenced by the crowd. And so I truly think that actually happens, and you got to plan for that in a BAU scenario, so a business as usual scenario. Giannis and the Bucks probably get a lot more calls in that game 1 if it's in 5-serve arena. So I think in the first round, it played out as well as it did, but I'm glad you brought that up, because I really do think another big issue for the Heat would have been, how are they going to contain Giannis? But also Giannis is going to get superstar calls if he was in Milwaukee, right? Here, I think the officiating has been pretty damn level. Like there's no fans or unrest or anything like that that's driving them. And of course, officials will say that never happens anyway. Sure. But I think we all know that it truly does. So that, I think, is the impact. And I actually think your initial question of, do you think these would have, these games would have played out differently? I think we'll actually see that here in the second round, and I might have an answer for you then. So let's say if I don't know, what's a good example? If the Heat win, no, actually the Celtics. I think if the Celtics beat the Raptors, I don't think they can't win in Toronto. They suck in Toronto. Brad Stevens has a terrible record. I think that series probably goes 7, and if you're asking to win a game 7 in Toronto, I don't know if the Celtics could have done it. So that's another example. But I'm far more confident in the Celtics, I should say, on a neutral court.
Yeah, and you look at the Sixers too, who were like 23-2 or something at home, and that was like the bulk of their wins were at home, and they were well below 500 on the road. So like you look at that team, it truly is a tale of two teams, and then you strip that away. I mean,
much better example.
Yeah, like and I don't know, they were didn't have a Ben Simmons that was a rattled and just Celtics team limping to leave and fire their coach and figure out what the fuck they're going to do. But I'm curious to know how it plays out as it gets further up. I still see the guys are getting superstar calls still. I think that is a constant in the league. That's just the way it works. And that's the way it's worked for a long time. The technicals though, man, like these guys are getting like teed up. And refs are teeing up guys for making comments and saying things, I think, because they can now hear the comments that are made on the court is what's been said a lot. And I agree with that. But I guess theoretically we should see more evenly and fairly officiated games. It's like it's just 4 games where no one can sway the refs except for the guys on the court. And there's no fans there to affect the human condition or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you talk about the technicals. I think specifically when you look at the Mavericks Clippers series, I think 3 guys got ejected in that series. So Porzingis, which was terrible, he should have never been. It might have been the result of 2 technicals, but he should have never gotten that second tech for sure not. And then Marcus Morris got ejected in game 6, sorry, and then someone else got ejected. I could have sworn, but I think they are a little quick with the technicals, especially in that series. So yeah, it's a good point. And I think the crowd noise, man, when a team's on a run, right, I feel like that can impact whether or not a foul is called. It's just very, very pure here. And that's not to say that I like this better than home and away. I clearly don't. I wish we were in a normal format, but there are definitely some differences, and I think we're going to see that quite a bit here in the second round.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. You touched on Mavs Clips, which just ended today. The Clips advance in 6 games, exciting series. We kind of see Luka blossom into, a lot of people are calling him Luka legend. I think, following the age-old tradition of comparing white guys to white guys, which you have to do. You have to compare races. And of course, no other better guy than Larry Bird, another kind of 6'9" scorer who could do anything on the court and seeing the control, the fate of every game you played in. So what did you think of that series? And side note, my thing on Porzingis is, and what we've been talking about in our group chat and then on the show, is that man's a bitch. I think, like, if I'm Luka, who rolled the shit out of my ankle in game 2 and plays on it, visibly hobbled, and we saw that roll, we saw the aftermath. I mean, that was not just like your regular easy ankle sprain that you ice up and your regular, like, it legitimately affected him. And he's like still playing and carrying his guys. Like, that stuff matters, I think, when you're a young, developing talent. And so then KP has knee soreness and, doesn't play. And of course we see these teams all the time, like, release these bullshit. We always joke that the Grizzlies medical Twitter account, like, tweets out some really ominous things. And it's like, we'll never actually reveal the true illness. They'll be like, if someone has the flu, they'll be like, someone is exhibiting like runny nose and some slight soreness. And it's like, just say they had the flu, like, just be fucking honest. But I don't know. I was really disappointed in KP. And I feel like if you're in Dallas, you got to be mad about that. They said he was going to play if the Mavs somehow advanced. They get past the Clippers, and then he's suddenly going to play, is what Rick Carlisle was saying. It's like, dude, this is like win or go home. Get in the game and play. Like, if unless you have a legitimate tear in your ACL, MCL, or meniscus, in which case you should be on a plane back home to get surgery. What are you doing? Yeah,
I'm always a little apprehensive to call out players because you're right. We don't ever know the severity of these injuries. But if we're supposed to form these opinions based on what they're providing us, then yeah, man, knee soreness is, I'm going to take you at face value. Sure. If you're telling me that it's knee soreness, that's not going to fly in some of these elimination games, man. You got to suit up. You got to play. No one's asking you to drop 40 plus and hit a game winner like Luka did, but Luka's out here like battling on a bum ankle. By the way, after he rolled his ankle, how about none of the Mavericks players like going to help him and limp him back. He's just hobbling on one foot by himself. Like, guys, this is a top 5 player in the league right now. He is your franchise.
Yeah.
Fucking help him out, guys. Like, we see this.
Trey Burke is just, he's like, dude, you're lucky to have this contract. Maybe help your boy out a little bit.
Like what the hell is happening? Like, Dwight Powell, what the hell are you doing, man? Go help him back to the locker room. Yeah. So I was a little surprised by that. But man, Luka, I think instead of focusing so much on KP, which I mean, it's a fair, I'd be upset if I was a Mavericks fan because that series was there. That series was definitely there for the taking at one point. But once he got out, way too much to overcome. Clippers are just a better team. But man, Luka Doncic, I'm so excited to see how this kid's career unfolds. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself by saying multiple MVPs because it's a fool's game to play. He's going to get one though, for sure. He's already got Rookie of the Year under his belt. Could honestly say he might be most improved this year, but I don't know if that should count just because he's so damn good. And I think also Luka needs to take a little solace. I'm not going to tell him how to react. I'd be pissed if Marcus Morris was gunning for me the entire time, right? The entire series. But he should take solace in the fact that this doesn't happen to nobodies. It doesn't even happen to really good players. Like Jimmy Butler's not getting this treatment. It only happens to the select few great players. And I think Luka, like Donovan Mitchell, we're watching him right now. He's a very, very good player. Jamal Murray coming into his own. These guys are not getting the Luka treatment.
Jamal Murray, by the way, Lil Ball Fro is his nickname, which we've deemed.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Lil Ball Fro.
A lot of trademarking going on this episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what we do. We're quite a legal team, an armada really at the Barn Burner, and we can get that locked up right after the podcast.
I like that.
So yeah, I mean, he is really good. He is a guy that I can't imagine. I mean, knocking on wood with every bit of my might, he's not a guy that's going to be injured a lot because he just doesn't play that style of basketball. And the Harden comps have started to flow again, and I've always kind of thought that. Not to be like Russillo and Bill, I've been saying that since 2003. But like I feel like it's not only in the fact that he kind of gets to wherever he wants, but like did you ever hear that that this is a classic like bullshit Twitter? I don't know if this is true, but I saw this tweet one time. It was like a sports sciencey type thing about Harden's elite athletic skill. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I have not. No. Tell me about it.
So Harden is not we know he is not a like stud athlete. I mean, he can get up and dunk every now and then. Like he's probably above average athletic for the league to do what he does, but he's not like Donovan Mitchell, for example. But his elite skill, which apparently puts him in some kind of crazy high percentile, is that he can slow down like so quickly. He can decelerate quicker than anyone else can in the league. And and if you watch him, and Luka's the same way, which is what made me think about this, is that when they get into the paint, like suddenly they just kind of stop and then their defender flies past them. And that usually leaves their defender kind of flailing that's when the fouls happen with Harden and Luka now. And then Luka, that's why you always see Luka get to his spot under the basket and suddenly he's just kind of tossing up like a really easy floater. And you're like, wait a minute, like he's not fast. He didn't push the guy off. Like, how come this is happening? And it's because he slows down. And the other guys, like, in defensive stance backwards, like backpedaling, usually falling out of bounds, off balance. So that was like an interesting bullshit Twitter thing. But as far as I know, I'm going to take that for fact and move on.
Those guys know how to control the pace of their own game, not just, not just the tempo of the entire game, but when they have the ball, like even his step back threes from the couch, it looks like, for me, I'm like, how the hell do you not close out on that and just get a hand in his face? But Luka, I mean, he's just so methodical. And same with James Harden. I think James Harden's arguably the greatest scorer, one of the greatest scorers the league has ever seen. So I'm going to hold off on that comparison. But Luka is very all around. I mean, that man is getting rebounds, dishing the ball. Mavericks obviously found a fantastic pick in Luka. Did you see what Cuban said? He was asked.
He would like divorce his wife and
weirdo, dude.
Yeah, I feel like that was really unnecessary. You just hit a drive by on your wife out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, the only way that's acceptable is if the announcer or the interviewer asked him, "Hey, would you rather keep Luka or divorce your wife?" Like it has to be that direct of a question for you to answer like that. Otherwise, what are you doing, man?
What are you answering?
He's always been like kind of a fake hardo. Like I drink with the players. Like me and Chandler Parsons are going out and like. getting blackout on Red Bull vodkas, and like, I'm trying to catch some runoff of Chandler Parsons' game, and that's whatever. But like, Cuban's Cuban.
Chandler Parsons, man, that's your boy.
Oh yeah, high on the boy list for sure.
That guy, what a thief! What an absolute thief! Chandler
just
Parsons
rode off into the night. Yeah,
I don't blame him.
I wish he had just put all the money we gave him in a giant fucking burlap sack and it just like legitimately like ridden off into the night. At least that would have made me feel better, like the theatricality of it. But anyway,
I mean, do you talk about? I was listening to you. I forget if I was on or this was before. You were talking about Tobias Harris's contract. Chandler Parsons was Chandler Parsons walked so Harris could run. I mean, at least Harris is pretty healthy and productive. I didn't see anything from Chandler, but also to your point about that sports science-y Twitter thing you were talking about. If those guys know how to decelerate Harden and Luka, I just want to know the average speed of play for Kyle Anderson. It is like, obviously everyone knows his nickname is Slow-Mo, but he is so slow. It is crazy.
Yeah, same kind of thing. He's just less effective because he's never able to get there to begin with. He's never able to like go fast enough to begin. It's always slow from the get go. It's never like, so he doesn't really decelerate as much as he does kind of just continue to be slow. But yeah, it's a weird. He has such a goofy game, man. It is not a good fit for the Grizzlies with John Jaren the way we want to play, and we need basically just 3-point shooters. I mean, I know everybody needs that, but really we need kind of all the Mavericks. We need those guys. We need like the Finney Smiths and maybe like a more consistent Tim Hardaway. But I think Kyle Anderson, man, if he finds his way to the right team and they could have be the point guard for the second unit, he can really be effective. But we'll see.
And I don't want to derail this conversation any more than I probably already have, because I know you got an agenda that you want to get to. But the Grizzlies, and I texted you guys this, the Grizzlies give me some serious OKC Thunder circa 2009 vibes. They will learn how to win. And every ascension, right, from the lottery, you don't go from the lottery to the number one seed in the West. I feel like you have to take your bumps. Ja's first year amidst all of this shit happening, right? A pandemic, suspended season. Ja's first year gets him to an 8 seed, and they played the Blazers pretty damn competitively. Him, JAREN, and who are the guys that were out for you guys?
We had Justice Winslow.
JAREN was out. Sorry.
JAREN was out. Justice Winslow, who's going to be our starting 3, came over in the Heat deal. We traded Iggy, and then also Tyus Jones was our starting point guard on the second unit. So the reason we won more games this year, and I don't expect anyone knows if you hadn't watched us, because you can't watch us, I get it, is that our bench was really fucking good. If John Jaren were really good for as young as they are, but our bench unit came in and just demolished every other bench unit. I think we were like a top 5 bench in the league, mostly run by Tyus Jones and Brandon Clark, our also first team all rookie from Gonzaga, was on that second unit. And they just kind of came in and created havoc, and they were really good. But it's only because Tyus Jones was able to run the second unit. When he went out, we had no second unit because he orchestrated the whole second unit. So that was like one of those weird, like, oh, Tyus Jones, he's not that good. And it's true if you look at his numbers, he's like a 9 and 4 guy. But like, he was just instrumental to what we did. And he just like, it was like House of Cards scenario. I mean, when you're a young team, if one thing happens like that, it's like, puts like a Lego set just in shambles down on the bottom. But I appreciate that. Yeah, we certainly hope that's the case, and hope that we can replicate that success. We have to build in the draft, since we're not going to attract any big time free agents. And I know the Celtics you're in the same boat. Like, usually the Celtics don't attract big time free agents. You usually have to trade and get your guys, or build through the draft like you did. So we'll see. We hope that guys are going to want to come play with John Jaren.
I just think this exposure is crucial for how you guys go forward, right? So you were in a playoff atmosphere. That's huge. I mean, perennial losing teams like the Kings, who have the longest playoff drought ever, right now at least in the league, they just don't get exposed to that. Like, I know what Ja Morant can do in a playoff setting. I love De'Aaron Fox, but I don't know what he can do. I like Harry Giles. I don't know what he can do. I'm not trying to pick on the Kings, but these games and these lumps that you take, especially when Ja and JAREN, your cornerstone, the 2 cornerstones of your franchise, are so young. Like, rip the Band-Aid off early in their career, get them going. So I truly do think that you guys are going to ascend and start competing for, Western Conference Finals appearances. You guys have already been to one recently, lost to the Warriors, I think. But
Spurs.
Spurs, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I'm very, very excited for this franchise and for you guys, and they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. Hope it continues, and yeah, we're excited to see where we go. West is tough though, man. Like the Mavs are going to be really good. I mean, here we are, the Grizzlies. We're watching the Mavs, and we're thinking that's who we have to beat to get anywhere for the next 10 years. We got to beat Luka Doncic. And I think that's kind of daunting, right? When he's like theoretically the gatekeeper, much as LeBron was in the East for all those years, I think. And then the Jazz, you got a young Donovan Mitchell who's there. And, Jamal Murray's really good. Each team, I mean, you've got the Pelicans who are the league darlings who are going to be good at some point. They are like they have the talent. They maybe, I guess everyone thought they were going to be really good this year and they weren't. But if Zion could stay healthy, like they're going to be good. He's nasty. So it's going to be tough to win. Our division is actually the Spurs, the Mavs, the Pelicans, and the Rockets is the Grizzlies division. So those are teams we play 3 to 4 times every year. So our schedule is actually really hard usually.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think there are some teams in the West though that have a right now type of window where they have to win. Next couple of years, Rockets window is closing. It is like they've been there the past couple of years. Lakers window, who knows how effective? I mean, we say this all the time. LeBron's a freak, but who knows how effective he's going to be 2-3 years from now? These guys got to win now. Grizzlies, Mavericks, Pelicans. These are teams that right now you're playing with house money. In 5-6 years, you're going to be contenders like that. You have a very wide open window. But yeah, it's. I think what the Grizz have, and from what I've seen at least, is a superstar in the making, Ja Morant, a very, very like a really, really good player in Jaren Jackson, and then also a great supporting cast. I think Brandon Clark was a steal. Jonas Valanciunas is a good veteran presence, and then your second unit, like you had mentioned. So, I mean, I just don't know if those other teams have that type. Like, when I think of Jaren, Ja, Brandon Clark getting even more exposure and getting better. I mean, obviously Luka's amazing, but who else on the Mavericks might be contributing to them getting a lot better, right? Who, like I had mentioned, the Rockets, they're in win now mode. So in 5 years, who knows where they're going to be? Pelicans, I mean, who is going to be great alongside Zion? Ja has those 2 other guys.
Yeah, that's a good point, and we'll see what happens. Let's get to the West real quick. So we've got the Lakers toppled the Trailblazers, which we kind of mentioned. Trailblazers, Dame Lillard got hurt, didn't play Game 5, the closeout game. Dame and CJ, they were just tired, man. They played literally like 12 to 13 games of playoff basketball. Every game was a playoff game for them. So I feel like they just got tired, and it was cool to see Melo, I guess, get some run and get some love again. But I just don't like that Blazers team. That'd be a tough team to be a fan of. It's Dame's great, he's fun, but like, where are you really going with that team? Like I just can't imagine. And they made the Western Conference Finals last year, which is honestly kind of crazy when you think about that. And I think things kind of broke their way. But like, I just don't. Dame's 30 or 31. He's owed like $180 million on his contract. In his year 34 season, he makes $54 million a year, which is insane. So he's there for the long haul. And I mean, that means they're not going to be able to bring anyone else. So I'm curious to see what they end up doing with CJ if they end up breaking up that tandem. But any thoughts on the Blazers or Lakers?
The Blazers need to develop a defensive identity. They're god awful defensively. I mean, they have all the talent on the offensive end, but their defense is just laughably bad, man. And so that's what's prohibiting them. It's not like, look, a lot of people did say, hey, they might be the most dangerous 8 seed, especially after that Game 1 win. And yeah, I mean, they weren't healthy all year. Damian Lillard's a superstar, but you weren't like they have that record for a reason. I forget who it was. He said, you are what your record says you are. So I'm with you. I don't know the future of this franchise because you said, CJ and Dame aren't necessarily youngsters. Neither is Nurk. And then Zach Collins typically is hurt a lot. I don't know where they're going to go from here, and I feel bad for Blazers fans because it just seems like they always get their hearts ripped out by the Lakers or even the Warriors. Like they just seem kind of like a cursed fan base. Like they're not yet at that upper echelon level of like a Lakers or a Warriors franchise, and so uh, it, Dame, bless him. I think he's there for the long haul, like you said. Like he doesn't want to leave. I think he really wants to build something great. Maybe just get one finals appearance, and I think he'd be pretty validated. If he isn't already. But you're right. This Blazers team, man, they seem to be like a team meddling around. Like they'll make the playoffs, but what are they really going to do? And they made, like you said, they made the Western Conference Finals last year and got swept. So.
Yeah, the Lakers are going to be playing the winner of Rockets OKC, which has been kind of a frisky series. And what do you think about Rockets OKC? Are you buying into the D'Antoni? Do you like the Rockets? Because I feel like you're either seems like people are either like, yeah, I'm kind of into this, or they're like, dude, fuck this. This is an abomination.
I like the Rockets. I think I like them especially because I got tired of the Golden State run. And I really truly felt bad for Houston. And I think had they had a healthy CP3 in game 7, they win that series. But Rockets Thunder, man, Rockets are they're a little too lackadaisical for my like, man. They need to be taking care of this Thunder team. Thunder are decent, but if the Rocket, I think this is their best chance at getting to a title. They don't have to worry about playing on the road. And I mean, they're the epitome of live by the 3, die by the 3. They died by it the other night. But I've said this all along, Sam, and it's not really going out on a limb because they're the number 1 seed. The Lakers are the best team in the West. I never really bought into the Clippers being the best team. They're really good. But when the Lakers are locked in, 2 top 5 players, and by the way, what the hell's PG doing? Paul George. I mean, I know he had mentioned a little bit about being in a dark place, but if we go strictly on his play, he's not playing up to snuff. But the Lakers, man, I think are the best team in the West. And if Anthony Davis is going to drop 30 to 40 points, I don't know who's beating them.
Yeah, especially because it's hard to match up with Anthony Davis. Like no one D's him up. Like he's kind of like the Giannis of the West in terms of effectiveness and just kind of walking mismatch. Yeah, like the Lakers the problem is they don't have Avery Bradley. They don't have Rondo. Maybe they get those guys back. Maybe LeBron gets on the bat phone and tells Avery to like get the fuck down to Orlando, that it's actually safe and he's good. Because they're going to need him, I think. Less with the eventual Rockets or probably Rockets, or maybe I guess less with the Clippers because the Clippers don't really have like some sort of do-it-all point guard, and maybe they need a point guard stopper to guard James Harden. But I think they're somehow winning with Caruso. Kuz has kind of stepped up, become their 3rd best player. But when your best 2 players are LeBron and AD, it's like that you're going to go far if your other guys can play like reasonably well. So I expect to see the Western Conference Finals of the Clippers Lakers, and that's kind of what we've all been waiting for is that Battle of LA.
Yep, I agree. I will say though, a dark horse team that I think I don't know if they're necessarily a dark horse team, but I could see the Rockets beating the Lakers. In my opinion, they're the only team that I think that I can see beating the Lakers.
Yeah, the math of that, like if you shoot that many threes, like you either lose horribly or you or you just blow people out, and that's just the way it goes. And I mean, yeah, like it's just but I like how they're finally fucking steering fully into it. Like just they're like, we don't need a big man. We're just gonna like play Robert Covington at the 5 or PJ Tucker, like shoot collector extraordinaire, and we're just gonna like play this style of ball. We're going to have Westbrook running around screens and crashing the boards like a maniac, like he does, who's going to be working his way back from that thigh injury. But we'll see. I think it should be interesting. And I would be excited if that game went to 7. I mean, that game 7 I think the Lakers are probably shitting their pants, and the Rockets, they just know who they are. They just jack up threes. If they go in, cool. If they don't, that was what they're supposed to do. And so I don't think anyone feels bad. I think everyone's really willing and able to play the kind of rec style ball. Like they're like playing at the fucking Lifestyle Fitness, or Lifetime Fitness. Like they're just running up and down, like jacking threes. No one's going to be like, bad shot, man. Like I think it's really freed up Jeff Green to become like play loose. It's freed up Ben McLemore, 2 guys that we had on the Grizzlies, and that just like, I mean, I thought were garbage because we expected them to run plays, but they're playing pickup, man. They're just hooping and they're effective now.
Yeah, and your 2 points about the Rockets. One, you're absolutely right that they are such a polarizing team. You either hate them or you love them, and even their players, right? James Harden. You either hate James Harden or
I've
you love
always
James
liked
Harden.
Harden, man.
I do too. I
I,
like him. I like the Rockets, and I do like Harden. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. No, you please.
Yeah, I mean, like I liked him since he left OKC. I was like, I can't believe they traded him. And a lot of people thought that Kevin Martin was just as good. And like, shout out Mason who sent me a text, and I've got receipts on that. I think I screenshotted a tweet where he messaged me and said Kevin Martin's just as good as Harden. And I was like, dude, Harden's nasty. And I just had a sense about him. I didn't honestly. I would be lying if I said I expected him to be like a fucking constant MVP candidate. But I mean, I mean, a lot of people hate his game, but to me, he's just like really good at what he does. And I always respect guys that are really good at their job. Even if it's like, and people say he's boring to watch, dude. Like those step back threes are like fucking electric. I mean, when he's like putting a guy in you could see him putting someone in the oven on the perimeter. Like he's starting to dribble between his legs, and you can see he's about to do some shit. Like it's fantastic theater.
One of the realest tweets I've ever seen was someone saying NBA Twitter doesn't actually like the NBA. Like it's NBA Twitter people just being like, "Oh, Harden drawing all these fouls." I'm like, there's art in that. There's beauty in that. Like that's effective basketball. You cannot say that he's literally he's the best scorer in the NBA today. But like, it just resonated with me. Like, how do you hate this team? Isn't it? I love watching this team. I mean, unless you're a Warriors fan, you've developed a rivalry there. But they just jack up all these threes. So that's one thing. Also, did you know PJ Tucker has haters too? I didn't. I love PJ Tucker.
I could see that. I could see. I could see like people not hating on his kind of shtick. You know, like his tough guy. Like he's got prison tat level stuff going on. You know, he's got like the angel wings on the back of his neck. He's got the shaved head, and it's clear he has hair. He just like purposely shaves it. You know, where you get the head 5 o'clock shadow, and that's like an intimidating look. Like when you purposely shave your head, like that's some shit. Like, what do people hate on him for? Just being like a tough guy or like a?
It's not even that. It's more so. I think it's because of all the shoes that he collects, and people are like, "Yeah, he has all these pairs of shoes and scores like 5 points a game." Like PJ Tucker's not their offensive weapon; he's their defensive stalwart. But I mean, I don't know. I just thought PJ Tucker's a pretty innocuous person, but the Rockets are pretty well hated across the league. I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Harden is I think Harden could give a shit less about really any of the guys in the league. I really think he views it like his job, like maybe more so than some of these other guys, like LeBron and Chris Paul and these buddy guys that are like, oh, we got to go out to dinner as a team and do team building exercises. And you hear all the guys talk about Harden like, oh, he didn't know my kid's name, or like Chris Paul said he wouldn't wish his kid a happy birthday or something. And then he's like, Shea would. And then Shea like got on his Instagram and said like, happy birthday, little Chris or whatever. And it's like, dude, like, who cares? Like I don't care if Harden's your boy or he's not your boy. You all played well together, and like I could give a shit less. Like if your friends off the court, I think he's like Harden is anytime he talks after games too. When he does like a post game interview, I'm always like, he's always like very astute and pretty good at, like in the public eye. Like you'd think he'd be more Kawhi like, but he is like he's good at talking about the game and what happened. And I mean I don't know. Like the Harden thing's weird to me. I really don't know what the whole. Like, how is he different than LeBron? Like, all LeBron does is draw fouls and pass the ball to shooters. Like, in terms of play style, it's like, I guess LeBron used to like, dunk on people, but he hasn't really in the 4 years.
It is an interesting argument. I'm with you on that, man. Like, I don't know. And I think going to your point about how he addresses the media, what he's like in the public eye, I feel like at some point when you're a superstar, like James Harden is, you just got to come to grips with who you are, right? And you just got to know. By the way, Jamal Murray is going fucking off right now.
What do we at? What do we at the score right now?
117-107. Sorry, I'm like a little.
No. Yeah, I should. I'm gonna catch the
scatterbrained.
Yeah.
But I mean, James Harden at some point, I think he just made a decision. Look, I'm going to get slandered by a good group of people, no matter what I do. And much like the Rockets' offensive philosophy, which is this is who we are, let's just jack up threes. James Harden is like, this is who I am, man. Like, take it or leave it. I've had an incredible run of success here personally in the NBA, team wise, maybe not so much, but people forget he's played in an NBA Finals before. He's gone to a Western Conference Finals. It's tough to say. He gets labeled as like not a winner, I just think he's run into LeBron and the Heat and the fucking Warriors. Those are two all-time teams, probably the two best teams of the 2000s. So I'm with you on Harden there.
Any other NBA takes before we sign off?
I got nothing, man. I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you calling out amongst the other two in Cliff Robinson and also Chadwick Boseman. Thank you, though, for acknowledging Lute Olson as well. So, yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. Very sad week. But as you had mentioned, power of positive thinking.
Yeah, it's very true. When are the next TICH episodes coming out? I know Theater and College Hoops, the guys are counting down the all-time 50 greatest college basketball programs based on history to present. So when's the next episode dropping? And you talk a little bit about that if you want.
Yeah, so we plan to record here probably this week or maybe after Labor Day. So be on the lookout for that. We are at the number 10 team. We've gotten all the way now to our top 10 team.
What an odyssey.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, man, filled with a lot of deliberation and arguments. But I can't believe it, dude. Like when we launched this idea right at the beginning of COVID, we said, okay, let's just get through the off season and then we'll have a season to talk about. And I think we will still have a season, but Pac-12's done until next year. So a lot of uncertainty. I'm sure we've heard this a million times. These are unprecedented times. I want to get back to precedented times for the love of God.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen to Theater and College Hoop here in the next week or two.
All right, Suvi, my man. Thanks for coming on. Have a good week, buddy.
Thank you.